All right, good morning, everyone. Let's come to order and go on the record, please. I'm Charlotte Mitchell, Chair of the Utilities Commission. And with me this morning are the following commissioners. When I call your name, please announce your presence. Commissioner Gray,
Present. Good morning.
Commissioner Clodfelter,
Yes, good morning.
Commissioner Duffley,
Good morning.
Commissioner Hughes,
Good morning.
and Commissioner McKissick.
Good morning.
All right, in compliance with the State Government Ethics Act, I remind all members of the commission of their duty to avoid conflicts of interest and inquire at this time as to whether any member of the commission has a known conflict of interest with respect to matters coming before us this morning. The record will reflect that no conflicts have been identified, so we will proceed with public staff communications. Item P1, Ms. Profit, you're up.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can
My
hear
name
you.
is Karen Profit of the Public Staff Water, Sewer, and Telephone Division. I'm presenting item P1, which presents the filing, the July 17th filing of the application of Atlantic Telecom Multimedia Consolidated LLC, seeking designation as an eligible telecommunications carrier for the purpose of qualifying to receive Universal Service Fund support to provide voice and broadband services in certain areas defined by census blocks that lack these services, and to allow it to offer discounts to qualifying low-income customers through the FCC's Lifeline program. In its July 17th application, and as specified in its supplemental filing on February 27th, ATMC seeks ETC designation for the census blocks located in Bladen, Brunswick, Columbus counties, and also Duplin, Pender, and Robeson counties. The public staff has investigated ATMC's application and supplement filings, including its review of responses to the public staff data requests. Public staff concludes that ATMC satisfies the requirements for designation as an ETC. Public staff recommends that the commission issue an order finding that ATMC has met the requirements to serve as an ETC in the requested census blocks in Bladen, Brunswick, Columbus, Duplin, Pender, Robeson counties, and designating ATMC as an ETC for those census blocks as requested.
Move approval on the recommendation.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the item be approved as recommended by the public staff. Are there any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the roll for a vote. Indicate your support for the motion with an aye and your opposition with a no. Commissioner Brown Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Commissioner Clodfelter.
Aye.
Commissioner Duffley.
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner McKissick.
Aye.
And for the record, I support the motion as well, and the motion carries. All right, the record will reflect that Commissioner Brown Bland has joined us, and we'll cut her a little slack this morning since it is her birthday. So happy birthday to Commissioner Brown Bland. All right, thank you, Ms. Profit. We will proceed now.
Thank you.
We will proceed now with public staff electric item P1. Mr. Saylor, I believe you're up.
I'm Scott Saylor with the Public Staff Energy Division. Item P1 consists of applications for amended certificates of public convenience and necessity for solar PV electric generating facilities. The public staff recommends that the commission approve the applications and issue the amended certificates.
Move approval on the recommendation.
And I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the item be approved as recommended by the public staff. Are there any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the roll for a vote. Indicate your support with an aye and your opposition with a no. Commissioner Brown Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Commissioner Clodfelter.
Aye.
Commissioner Duffley.
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner McKissick.
Aye.
And for the record, I support the motion as well, and the motion carries. All right, we'll proceed now with public staff electric item P2.
Good morning. I'm Jay Lucas with the Public Staff's Energy Division. Item P2 consists of a request to waive the master metering prohibition in North Carolina General Statute 143-151.42. The public staff recommends that the commission issue the public staff's proposed order allowing a waiver of the master metering prohibition.
I'll move the recommendation of the public staff.
And second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the item be approved as recommended by the public staff. Are there any questions or discussion?
Madam Chair, I do have a couple of questions.
All right, proceed, Commissioner McKissick.
The way I read this particular item, it's going to allow for the master metering, I guess, of electricity as well as, I believe it might have been gas as well.
I don't believe this one's allowing master metering of natural gas.
Okay, so it was just, okay. So if it was, even if it's just for electricity, but they're charging for it through their HOA fees, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, let me ask this question, because typically when HOAs assess property, they are allowed in North Carolina, if for some reason you don't pay your HOA fee, to actually sell your home or townhome, as the case may be, to satisfy a delinquency. Is there anything that's in any of the restrictive covenants that would prohibit the sale of a property for a portion of the HOA fees that's attributed to the utility costs?
I am not sure of that. I didn't get a copy of the HOA's rules and regulations, but I know there's a separate general statute. I don't have the number in front of me. But disconnecting utility service for non-payment of utility items is prohibited by law in North Carolina. It's called self-help eviction. And I can dig deeper and find that general statute and let you know. I can also contact the applicant and get a copy of the planned covenants of the HOA.
Restrictive covenants for the HOA, and look to see if that other general statute that you mentioned would prohibit an eviction, the sale of the property as a result of the non-payment of the component of the HOA fee that's attributable to the utilities. That would certainly, address my concern. I mean,
Sure.
as you're aware, if it's one of the other investor-owned utility companies in our state, certainly if it was Duke, we wouldn't allow that, any of the Duke entities or any of the private water and sewer companies. And that's the concern I had when the way it read, when it's a part of that HOA assessment, because typically with the HOA assessment, the remedy you have to collect it is to sell the property.
Yes. But I will find out. I'll get the HOA agreement and talk about the prohibition on self-eviction. That was for customers that didn't pay utility bills and a landlord disconnecting utility service for non-payment of rent. So it wasn't for non-payment of some kind of other fee. It was a disconnection of utility for non-payment of rent. But I will dig deeper into that and find you that general statute.
Is there any time sensitivity to this particular request that's before us today? I mean, if it's possible to bring it back, say, next week, once we get some answers, I'd feel a whole lot better. And
Yeah, I can do that. I can work on bringing it back next week. They wanted to start construction in March, April, but somewhat of a late filing. They didn't file this request until February 4th. And we did have some back and forth with the applicant regarding some other issues that we got resolved. But I will dig deeper. I think the applicant would be motivated to supply my request pretty quickly. So yeah, we can bring it back on the 29th.
it would be excellent. And at least that can be addressed. And, if it's something in the restrictive covenants that addresses it, or even if they do plan to be able to collect it as an assessment and they plan to use the additional remedy of selling property, if somebody is going to do that, then I would want to make sure that when people are buying into this community, that this is prominently and conspicuously stated in documents even, because
Yes, yes.
it's an extreme remedy for non-payment of a utility component of someone's HOA assessment, but because it appears to be that way. And the statute you mentioned earlier about landlords and rent, I'm familiar with it, even though I can't say I could point to the statute number, but I've read about it and heard of it previously. So
Yeah.
I'm just
It's
not-
not in general. It's not in general statute 62. It's somewhere else, but I'll find it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. If we could carry this over for a week, I would appreciate it.
Madam Chair, I will withdraw my motion for the time being and move that we bring this back to staff conference next week, March 29th.
I agree.
All right, we've got a motion. Commissioner Brown Bland has withdrawn her initial motion and has moved that the item be considered next week staff conference, and that motion has been seconded. Any additional questions or discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion indicate with an aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right, thank you, Mr. Lucas. All right, we'll proceed now to public staff electric item P3. Mr. Williamson, you're up.
Good morning. I'm David Williamson with the Energy Division. If it's all right, I'm going to handle items 3 and 4 at the same time.
All right, you may do so.
All right. So items P3 and P4 are filings made on February 3rd, 2021 by both Duke Energy Carolinas and Duke Energy Progress, LLC, for approval of certain modifications to their multifamily EE programs. These modifications that are being proposed are to add upgraded low flow water measures and smart thermostats to the existing list of measures offered by these programs. Programs are expected to be cost effective under both the total resource cost test and the utility cost tests. Therefore, the public staff recommends that the commission issue our proposed orders approving these program modifications.
I move approval of the public staff's recommendation for electric items P3 and P4.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the items be approved as recommended by the public staff. Questions or discussion?
Chair Mitchell, I have a few questions.
All right, you may proceed, Commissioner Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson. You talked about the programs meeting the cost effectiveness test. Could you describe some other cost information about the programs? What will be the annual expenditure change? Is this an addition or a substitution of a measure that is currently given out by the program? And how do these programs compare just in the portfolio of EE? Is this one of the larger programs or mid-size?
Sure. Well, so these measures that are being added, again, they're just going to be in addition to the current list. The program currently offers other water measures. So, for instance, in this case, it's an upgraded low flow water shower head. Currently, they have a 1.5 gallon per minute shower head. And this one, the new measure is going to be a 1.25 gallon per minute. As far as the other information that you're asking about, how this program, as far as increase in costs, I don't have that information readily available to me, but I do know that I see Bob Evans with the company who'd probably be a lot better at answering that question off the top of his head.
If that's okay and it's appropriate, Chair Mitchell, can Mr. Evans address that question?
You have, Commissioner Hughes, any additional questions for the public staff?
Well, most of them are follow on to that first
Okay.
first question.
Let's
So At this point, yeah.
Okay, Ms. Fentress, I see that you are on camera. If you would handle Commissioner Hughes's questions, or Mr. Evans may handle them as appropriate.
Certainly. Thank you, Chair Mitchell. Good morning, commissioners. I am Kendrick Fentress, appearing on behalf of Duke Energy Carolinas and Duke Energy Progress. And I am going to hand these questions after introducing myself to Mr. Evans, who is the subject matter expert on these questions. Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Bob Evans, representing Duke Energy Progress and Duke Energy Carolinas LLC. In terms of the cost of the programs, well, this is a medium-sized program. I guess that was one of the questions initially, as well as the cost effectiveness of this program is significantly in the upper echelon relative to other programs. The cost associated with this is we're looking at, in terms of water measures, there are no water measure increases in cost. Now, there is a smart thermostat as well. That will depend on the type of thermostat desired by the property owners. We're looking at anywhere from $50 to $100 a thermostat in terms of the cost, but that's after the buy down from the property owners themselves. I've seen expectations of 200, 400, 600 in different lots. And so you would multiply those amounts by, let's say, the $50, which would be a low cost Nest economy model. These do in fact exceed the cost. Additional costs are exceeded by the avoided cost, which is why we are looking at providing these measures in this program. Did I answer your questions appropriately, or are there further follow-ups?
Well, could you just, I'm just curious, not with the cost effectiveness or the net cost, but just the gross annual expenditures. What did you model for the first year of this? Is it going to, how many millions of dollars or thousands of dollars does the program cost to implement now? Just gross cost, not net cost. And then what is the adding of thermostats going to do to the program?
I do not have that information printed out in front of me right now. Maybe David Williamson, I hate to refer it back to you. Would you have these, the R869, 68 attachments printed out and available? If not, I will supply that information for the commission as a subsequent follow-up.
I am looking now. I do have it pulled up. Just need to find the right line item.
And just for both of you, I'm not questioning the program. I just am interested in the implement costs as we possibly introduce smart thermostats into more of our EE programs. And I think that's a great idea. I just was curious what the expenditure change would be.
Sure. So I do have it pulled up. I guess the best place to look on this would be it's page 8 of it's attachment C, and it's page 8 of their application. It gets into a annual breakdown because they do, whenever they file for modifications or new programs, they project out 5 years of expenses and benefits for these programs. And so looking at implementation costs, it's looking like it's around 500,000 or so annually, just for the implementation. But the total utility costs anywhere between 1.5 and low, almost 2 million on an annual basis.
And that's for each utility?
I am looking specifically at Duke Energy Progress, excuse me. I do not have the Duke Carolinas filing up, but I would expect that it would be somewhere similar.
Okay. Well, and maybe this is a question for you, last one. For the cost test, I saw that there's a required statement that the property owner or building owner has to say that they wouldn't have installed these devices otherwise. Are they permitted to install one smart thermostat if another one already exists and it's just a little outdated? I don't see that they have to say that they replaced an old thermostat with a smart thermostat. But is that part of the program?
So you're asking if the program is going to include participation from apartment owners that have recently upgraded their smart thermostat?
Well,
Or
I think there's a lot of penetration of smart thermostats now, and for modeling, I think for the maximum energy savings is of course an old thermostat that has no controls at all is replaced with a smart thermostat. I'm just curious what the modeling and assumptions were for this program. Is it assuming that a smart thermostat is going to replace an old thermostat, or can a smart thermostat just replace a slightly older smart thermostat? Can a new smart thermostat under this program replace a slightly older smart thermostat that's already installed?
I would probably ultimately defer to Bob to this, but my understanding is that it could, as long as the application of the smart thermostat, the functions of it were more up to date with standards now. I guess to put it, it's almost like in a light bulb situation where we have 3 different tiers of light bulbs, but you're in the middle tier, but you're trying to go up to the top tier. You're not going to get the same incremental impacts as you would going from the bottom tier, but you would still get some impacts.
Okay, and is that, Mr. Evans, is that how the program runs?
And you have a very low, Commissioner, we have a very low penetration of smart thermostats in multifamily. I'm in a multifamily structure as we speak. It has a smart thermostat in it because I put it there, much to the disappointment of my land or property owner. We did not look at replacement of new or recent, let's say, upgrades. Because of the technology and the lifespan of these thermostats, that was not considered. It could exist, it could occur. I guess that is the beauty of the copay. Now, landlords do not get these for free. They will actually have to pay out of pocket a certain amount for them. But that's not to say that for style reasons or other reasons that they would replace them. I can't say. Now, going back to Mr. Williamson's light bulb example, light bulbs under this program, we did not replace an LED with an LED. We'll replace a 5-year-old CFL, for example, but not, and that the 5-year is a criteria, by the way. So I don't see that happening, but it could happen. So I guess it's not something that we would anticipate happening, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. So I apologize, that'd be a roundabout response to your question, Commissioner, but it could happen. It's just not likely.
Yeah, it's the answer I was looking for. I mean, you answered it. So, no more questions. Thank you both for your answers.
All right, any additional questions for the applicant? All right, Mr. Evans, I do have one question for you. I read in the application that the M&V for this program involves the use of AMI. Is this, can you tell me how, is this the only program, or these two the only programs that you all have proposed to use AMI so far, or are there other programs that also use AMI for M&V purposes?
Commissioner, I'd like to think that all of our programs are going to be relying on AMI data in the future. We do engineering analyses, which is not AMI, but that is the preferred is a billing analysis. In order to perform that billing analysis effectively, you've really got to use AMI data to the extent you possibly can. So this is, it's just another tool in our resource, AMI, for determining the evaluation of the programs themselves.
Okay, understood. So is this the first program, are these two the first programs that will be using AMI, or are your other programs using AMI at this point in time?
Our other programs are employing AMI.
Okay, all right, that's all I
Or
wanted to know.
several other programs. Let me qualify that. Several of other programs are.
Understood. Okay, so this would not be the only program that's utilizing or making use of the AMI.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, any additional questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
simply one question to the public staff. One thing that I would request in some of these future reports, perhaps providing a little more specificity in terms of projected cost of the programs, projected energy savings of the programs, to provide a little more context for these types of matters that are coming before us, and it might provide greater clarity and in terms of what's anticipated, and address some of the questions that Commissioner Hughes raised earlier. Get something for future reference so that, you know, the data is there, and perhaps we can analyze it a little bit more clearly in advance. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We'll try and do that.
All right, if there's nothing further, I'll go ahead. We've got a motion that's been seconded that the item be approved as recommended by the public staff. The items be approved as recommended by the public staff. I'm gonna, one last time with a roll call for the vote. Commissioner Brown Bland,
Aye.
Commissioner Gray,
Aye.
Commissioner Clodfelter,
Aye.
Commissioner Duffley,
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes,
Aye.
Commissioner McKissick.
Aye.
And for the record, I support the motion as well, and the motion carries. All right, thank you, Mr. Williamson. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Thank you, Ms. Fentress, for your presentation today. All right, the commission has before it its minutes of March 15th staff conference for approval.
Move approval of the minutes from March 15th.
And a second.
All right, any questions or discussion on the minutes? All right, all in favor of approving our minutes indicate with an aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, our minutes of March 15th staff conference are approved. Any additional business for the commission this morning before we adjourn? All right, hearing none, we will be adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's go off the record, please.